It's about identity and who do you see yourself to be? How do other people see you? And when do those things come in conflict? And when do those things agree? And what are the emotions surrounding those two things?
So, Stephen, there's a new tradition I have on this podcast where everyone I have on, particularly somebody of your stature, I ask this question. Tell me about the first time you felt famous.
First time I felt famous was I was still working for the Daily Show, and it was fairly late in my Daily Show time because I left there in 2005, but maybe it was 2000. It might have been 2004, and Daily Show made a big splash in 2000 with that election and the way Jon Stewart sort of changed the direction of the show when he came in the year before. But that show was really like doing a college newspaper. We were doing it for each other. We did not have it's the grind is so continuous that you don't have time to go feel what it's like for an audience out there that's connected with it. So I went years, and I think John to a certain extent did too, like went years without really getting a sense of what the show was meaning to people until I went and shot something. I did a story about spring break in Florida, and I can't remember what the story is about. All I remember is it was the first time I had been in a location with like 1,000 college students. And my producer and I had to run to get away from them because it's Stephen Colbert from The Daily Show. And I hadn't the slightest idea that that was our demo. Like those were the people who would be most excited. And it was a little bit like being like, wait, are we the Beatles? Like we had to get out of there. And we were not the Beatles, but that's the moment where I went, oh, these 18 to 22-year-old people are really watching the show, and I mean something. This whoever Stephen Colbert is means something to these people, and that was a almost it was startling. It was almost unbalancing. It's like on the plane back, saying to my producer, "What the hell just happened? What was that?" And he goes, "I guess more people are watching than we think." Because of the Daily Show, we never told ratings. It was basic cable. Nobody, like really, kind of by today's standards, by what the Daily Show became back then, really nobody was watching. It was tiny. We like at a 0.6 or something, like 600,000 people watching was good for the Daily Show back then. But they were all 18 to 22.
Did you have had you no clue what your demo was? Did you why didn't you understand that was your demo?
No one ever told us about it. No one ever.
What did you think your demo was?
Never thought about demo. I never thought about demo in any way until I got to network TV because, well, ratings are not meaningless on like basic cable. It's not quite the same focus, The show got a lot of attention, and I suppose the networks make some money through cable subscription fees. I'm not sure how that end of the business works, but all I know is even at the Colbert Report, when I was the head guy, once a year somebody came in and talked about my ratings. That was it. There was no sense, and that's kind of what allowed us to be adventurous in a way, because we were really just doing it for each other. Like, what made us laugh? What did we care? There was no focus groups. We didn't get any feedback from the network. It was just us, kind of like almost like an orphan show. Like nobody paid attention to us, and we just did what we wanted. From the network side, from a corporate standpoint, I mean.
Yeah, I totally understand this. It reminds me of something a producer told me a while ago when I had a show on ESPN, is that he asked me and my co-host at the time, did we want to be McDonald's and have billions served, or did we want to be the cute little bistro that everybody loved and came back to week after week, but it would never be bigger than the cute little bistro? And in your mind, you think you want to be a billion served, but to be honest, I think there's a lot of fun to be had when you're the cute little bistro that people just, fuck with over and over again. And like, that's their favorite place. And they have all these memories or whatever, as opposed to like, oh, you're just somebody else giving them a quarter pounder. People love the quarter pounder. Don't get me wrong, but
I love it.
There's something to be said for that.
Well, and the good news is that it's almost impossible to be McDonald's anymore. Just because McDonald's means everybody will go, or everybody will drive. There's a highway that's going to drive past that restaurant, And in modern media, there really isn't. Everything's a bistro now, because there is no one central highway that drives past, one row of restaurants anymore. That model's gone.
Yeah, I mean,
You might as well
I don't
be a
know.
bistro.
You might, right. I would say you're not a bistro necessarily. You're like mastros. There are mastros. There's several locations. It's one of my favorite places to eat,
What's a
but it's still
mastro?
distinct. You're like mastros, right? It's like
All
they
right.
have a great steak, a great menu. It's you can have an amazing experience at Mastros, but there's a Mastros in Scottsdale. There's a Mastro
Yeah.
in LA. There's Mastros in Malibu. Like there's Mastros a lot of
Yeah.
places.
It's not French fries, but they are slinging a lot of potatoes.
You see what I'm saying? You, my friend, you sling potatoes. You're good at that. I want to tell you how you indirectly impacted my life, and I was able to see one of the more startling things I think I've ever seen on television, or I should say specifically streaming. So I'm watching at the suggestion of multiple people. It's not a film. I don't know what exactly to call it. I'm trying not to give away too many details because I want people to watch it. And don't Google it if you watch it. The advice, or what I was told before I watched this, was don't Google it, just watch it. The first 20 minutes might be slow, but after that, you'll be riveted. I was like, okay, it sounds weird, but I'll do it. I watched In and of Itself.
Oh, I'm
And
so glad.
yeah, I just saw it in the last month, and I told everybody the same thing. And everybody I told to see this, we've all had the same emotional reaction. Little did I know until the credits rolled that you and your wife both executive produced this phenomenal piece of, how would you describe it?
It's really actually, it's very hard to describe it. It
Yeah.
was one of the reasons why Evie and I, along with Daryl Roth and Tom Werner, who are also executive producers on it, the reason why Derek Del Gaudio, who is the performer and the creator of In and of Itself, one of the reasons why we ended up doing it is that he couldn't get anybody to understand why it could be a movie. And he said, he actually said, do you know somebody at Showtime I could take it to? And I said, yeah, just take it to me, because I want to take this risk, because it was started off as a theatrical presentation, but this film that Frank Oz directed along with Derek is not a film of a theater piece. It is an experience of what it was like to be in that theatrical environment, with shooting 50 nights of it, all put together into a very elevated experience, almost like the balsamic reduction of what that experience was live in the theater. And without giving anything else away, it's about identity, and who do you see yourself to be? How do other people see you? And when do those things come in conflict, and when do those things agree? And what are the emotions surrounding those two things? Because so much of our human experience, but especially our modern experience, where we curate our identity, makes how other people see us an emotionally hot issue for us, regardless of what your personal identity might be. And the film explores the necessity to see people clearly, to allow yourself to be seen, and what that has to do with love. So
That's a
again,
great description. Yeah.
I did not describe what it is you're seeing, but that's what it's about. Now, it happens to contain magic, but it's not a magic show.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens to contain audience interaction, but it's not an improv show. And it happens to touch people on a deep level, having to do with their identity and their own individual pain in many ways. But it's not therapy. It's not a self-help seminar. It's none of those things. I was just talking to Evie, my wife, about it. I said, one of the hard things, because we're placing it in festivals and it's available on Hulu now, but there are other things for it ways to be distributed around the world. And we're saying, it's really hard, because it's like Frank and Derek came up with a new type of food, and people who are going to a restaurant go, well, is this an appetizer, or is this an entree, or is this a dessert? And they go, it's none of those things. And And vendors go, yeah, but I run a restaurant. What do I tell people this is? And it's a real challenge. But thank you for bringing it up. I'm so glad you saw it. It's the most beautiful thing, I think, that I've been personally involved in. And certainly my creative input is small, but my pride of being someone that those two artists would trust in helping get this out to people is enormous.
Yeah, and as I've described it to other people, is that well, one, I've told them this is not something that you can watch and be distracted. And the person who told me that the first 20 minutes might be slow, I was like, you were lying to me. They weren't slow. I was in from literally the first sentence in this film, for lack of a better way to put it. But it is an experience. I could not imagine seeing this live. I mean, as it was, I teared up watching it, right? And so I could not imagine what this was like live. Did you see this live? And if you did, what was that like?
I saw it multiple times live. The first time I saw it, I've several people some of the producers of my show said, I don't want to tell you anything about this, but I think you should go see it. And I went to go see it with my wife and my son. And as soon as I walked into the theatrical space, which includes the lobby, because you're asked to participate when you first come in, about choosing your identity, I thought, I immediately was struck with a sense of mystery. What will this be? I'm being asked to participate in something mysterious here. And I don't know how this mystery is going to unfold, but I immediately felt the mystery. And I also felt the invitation, which is kind of dangerous. It's like somebody hands Alice a bottle and the bottle says, drink me. That's what it sort of felt like. Well, what's going to happen? Am I going to get big or small? What's going to happen? And then by the time it was over, I didn't want to move. I didn't want to applaud because I felt like there was just like a 2-molecule thick blanket of air around my body. And I didn't want it to move because a spell of stillness and strange, excited sense of peace was on me at the end, because peace is often like a release, but this was an excited and energized. I felt charged with the possibility of being known and knowing other people as they are, not as I think I know them. Because one of the best things about the show and the film that these guys have created is that it changes how you see other people in that theater with you. And I think the best art stays with you as you leave, and then you start seeing people. I see you right now over the Zoom call in a different way because I worked with these two guys on this film and saw it. And then when I went to go see it again multiple times, I was afraid the fact that there are magical elements to it would make the next viewings of it diminished. And then I realized, the magic is merely a vehicle to tell the story. The story is what it's about. And they're all true stories. And as Derek says, I'm going to tell you a true story. I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to tell you a true story and you're not going to believe me, which is why I can tell you the truth. Your disbelief of what I'm telling you gives me a safe way of telling you, so you won't judge me because you'll know it's not real, but it is.
And for those listening, you heard what Stephen had to say about it. I could not recommend more that please, if you have Hulu, you need to watch In and of Itself. Don't Google anything about it. Don't, just allow the mystery and the intrigue to carry you. It is worth every second of your time.